Hi, this is Bobby, and welcome to Off the Cuffs. I'm excited today to have the assistant chief with us, my friend, my sister-in-law. I'm just grateful to have her because, you know, a lot of times we see people and we don't know their story. So I want to welcome you to Off the Cuffs today, Assistant Chief Miles.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. So, you know, a lot of people see you in the blue uniform. They've known you to work in the police department for years. Tell us about you. You know, who is Chief Miles? Who is she?
Well, I'm a young lady from Alabama. I was
Alabama.
born and raised, and a true country girl who, when I first moved here, didn't know anything about city life. And so a lot was exposed to me very quickly when I moved here. I got to know a few people, and those few people knew other people that I had met, and so I realized that, you know, the world is really small.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated high school, I moved to Winston-Salem because my mother was here at the time, and she had moved here. And I got a little job at a daycare center. My aspiration at that time was wanting to help people. And I quickly realized that I could do so much if I found myself in a position to where I had access to different people.
Wow.
And so I learned that the police department was hiring, and I applied and started rookie school in 1993.
Wow. Now look at you now. Wow. Well, I'm glad to have you here. You know, this month we're talking about gun violence in our city and in our county. This morning I was having a conversation with Sheriff Simmons down in Davidson County, and he was talking about over the weekend the violence that they had, 3 or 4 homicides that they've had. And so I thought that it would be fitting to not only bring the assistant chief of police here to talk about the gun violence, but to also talk about, to talk to a mother who has lost someone, or lost her child due to gun violence, because so many times we see it on the news to where we become numb, to where we don't give it the attention, we don't give it the story, we don't give it the history, we don't delve into it like we should. We're having far too many. And so I just want to talk to you about, first of all, what do you think is happening that is causing the uptick in gun violence that we've seen? I know you've been in the police department since 1994?
93.
93.
Yes.
So I know that when you came in, we didn't see this kind of violence that we saw. Matter of fact, I was just beginning my career with DEA, and I don't recall seeing this number of shootings, the uptick that we're seeing now. What would you attribute it to? What do you say?
When I came here and started in rookie school, we did see, during that era, it was really the drugs that we were dealing with. And over time, we've seen the homicide rate increase. And me personally, I feel like we have some real serious mental health issues when we want to pick up a gun and kill someone as a result of being angry over really minor things.
Right.
And so, you know, we've been asked the question how the pandemic is affecting this issue. I don't have the answer to that. I just know that our young people are misguided. I think they're being led by so many things, social media, negative media, and sometimes, often, the beauty of drugs and gun lead them to believe that that's somewhat of a fascinating lifestyle. And in actuality, it's more dangerous than they perceive it to be. And they don't realize that if they don't do something right, when it relates to dealing with someone else's drugs and money, that is possibly going to cause them their life.
Wow.
And oftentimes, that's how it ends up. Most of our homicides are over drugs.
Wow.
A good majority.
Wow. You know, you said we've seen an uptick in the gun violence and the things that are happening in this community. What you don't know is, and you probably do know, but I don't think you do, about a year and a half ago, right when I took this position, we were working a homicide with you all. You all were assisting us on it.
Yes.
And I met a lady who told me the difference you made in her life getting through losing her child. She told me that she would have lost her mind, literally, or took her life had she not talked to you and you shared some things with her. I met this lady at the CVS right there on Chatelain and University. I had went out there to meet her, and that was the site that we chose to meet her and one of my detectives. And she said, and at the time, I guess like a lot of people think that the police department, the sheriff department are one agency. You know, indirect, I guess we are law enforcement. And she wanted me to know, and I told her that she needed to thank Chief Thompson because that's who you direct report to. But she said things that I wish I had a recording, because what she said to me was she would have never gotten through this had you not shared your story, how you got through. And when we got ready to begin this series on violence, the first thing came to my mind was to call you. And I called you because, you know, so many times people see us in uniforms and they think we're invincible. They think that we wear a badge, but we're human beings. We cry, we love, we live, just like everyone else do in this community. I know personally the grief that your family suffered when you lost your son. And so I think that a lot of times in this community, there are so many victims at play when we lose a valuable asset in this community. And so it's something you never get over. I mean, I've never lost a child, lost a loved one, and you don't get over that. You just learn to live with the pains, the highs, the lows, and the ebbs and the flows. What message would you give? Because as we sit here now, I'm not naive enough to think that we'll ever stop violence. I know that. But what message would you give to some family member or some young man that is considering, that's thinking about it, that has a beef, that is toting a gun, that is on the verge? Because as we sit here today, right now, there's an unknown person out there that is going to meet their maker or going to transition. And I hope and I pray that something we say or do stops that from happening. So what would you say? Because I could never express it. And I've seen you speak several times about that issue. And every time you've brought tears in my eyes. And that is why I grabbed that box of Kleenex. It wasn't for you, it was for me. You know, I don't want to lose my swag points and start crying in here. But you are an amazing woman, because I've seen you stand under a very difficult situation. So what message would you give?
The day that I lost my son, I was in Florida on vacation.
No.
And I got the phone call from my brother, actually. My boss at the time could not reach me. My phone battery had gone dead. And lucky me, it did.
Yeah.
And when I spoke with my brother, he shared with me at the time, and my boss and the police chief at the time was there with my brother. And he shared with me that my son was dead. And that was really, at that moment, being a Christian woman, I was like, okay, God has found a reason to take my son. And I can be good with that, because I believe that when it's our time, it's our time. And I said to my brother, what happened? Did he fall asleep while driving? Never in my million years would I ever imagine that my son would be murdered. His life was taken by someone else, which to me, it was taken too soon. And was that the work of God? I don't know, but I'm accepting that. It's been a long, long journey for me, and it still is. Every day is a new day. Some days are worse than others, but I try to make the best of it.
What year was that?
It was in 2017, April 21st. The last 3 years of my life, I never imagined. I had many, many dreams for me and my children. I have 2 boys, and they had goals and dreams. Miko in particular, not perfect by any means. He's made some mistakes, but we talked about things, and he aspired to be a fireman. He had recently applied for the Winston-Salem Fire Department, and for the Greensboro Fire Department. And he received the notice that he can complete the application, so he was going to the following day to begin that process. We talked about, the little things in general. I shared with some people, I had to identify my son by his toes because of the trauma to his upper body. It's devastating, and for any family, especially a mom, to have to go through that and identify her child. People don't realize what they put families through. And if I had to say one thing to those who are out here carrying the guns, is that this is not the answer. Most people don't realize before they're in this situation is that oftentimes the person that end up killing these individuals are people that they know or that they think they know. I've never shared this with anyone, but there was a third gentleman with my son and this other guy. And it troubles me that although the shooter is in jail, that this other person would never serve time for what has happened to my son. He left my son there for dead, as does most of these young people who out here shoot these people, and they know them. They consider them friends. And I would just say, don't trust these people with your life because they will take it in the blink of an eye. And my son was vulnerable, and he trusted people that he really didn't know.
I know the story. I knew the story, being close to you and your family. I look around this community and I see the violence that take place periodically. And one thing that I get angry when I see that is that we're killing dreams, we're killing cures, we're killing inventors, we're killing leaders, we're killing so many things before they ever get a chance to take flight. And that's what not only frustrates me, but do we realize what we're talking about or what we're doing or how we're moving? You said something, and I struggle with it, and I know I'm probably a lot of criticism. I'll take it as it comes. People say, and you said, well, maybe this is God. I've heard people say, I don't think that, I just don't believe it's God's will for us to act like this. It's not. I don't think it's God's will for us to be killing one another. I don't. I don't think that it's God's will for young men to be gunning down one another in the streets. I just don't. I think that we as people are better and greater than that. And every day I try to figure out what can we do to stop it? What can we do to make a difference? And that was the main reason that I asked you to come, because I know part of your story. And it's so powerful that here it is, you go out and serve and protect. You spent the majority of your life, you've been with Winston, coming up on 30 years, something like that?
20, I'm going on 28.
28 years of your life, beautiful life, that you have been serving and protecting others. And now, those things that you've been fighting against happens and knocks on your door. Wow. And so when I think about that, I wanted you to share that, because people see us and have no idea who we are, what we've been through, what we're fighting for, and what we're trying to stop, because you've seen the devastation firsthand. You feel the pain. You said not a day goes by, not a week. You think about your baby, Miko. You think about the dreams that he has. And as a mother and a son bond is unbreakable. I know how I feel about my mother, and I know how she feels about me. Mothers and their sons is a very strong bond, just as fathers and their daughters. I get it. So every day we've got to keep fighting this fight to stop this gun violence, stop the gun violence, stop the gun violence. What would you do if there is something we could do, a program or something we could start, something we could do in the city of Winston, in the county? You know, every day people come to me and ask me, help me start this, help me figure this out. And sometimes I'll get out there and help them raise money for it, or I'll get out there and say, okay, let's do this. But I'm looking for someone to come to me and say, hey, I got an idea. I got something that we can help save lives in terms of this violence on the street, the gangs, something that I can look at and say, that's doable, that'll work. Because when I find that someone or that something, I'm going to apply all the resources, all the people I know to that, because we are losing too many people to gun violence, and they're getting younger. And a gun has no eyes, no GPS on it. When it relieves that barrel, it's on a path of destruction. It has one purpose, that's to kill. That's the only purpose a gun has, that's to kill. Not for show, not for conversation. It has one purpose, and that is to kill. And so what would you say, or what do you think, 'cause every guest I have this month, that's going to be my question to them. What do you think we can do to turn this around? You know, we have mothers against gun. We have mothers against a lot of things. We have spouses against this. What can we do to slow this down?
I mean, that's a tough answer. I've taken upon myself over the years to talk to some of these young people to see what is it that they're seeking. And most often I hear they want money. And oftentimes families don't have that extra money to give their children. They're looking for this lifestyle that has been demonstrated to them by various means. Again, whether it's TV, social media, or the guy down the road who's flashing the things that he possesses, and they know that if they sell some drugs, they may get a few dollars.
Right.
What we don't teach our kids anymore is that life is hard. Life is meant to be hard. You are supposed to have trials and tribulations.
Exactly.
You will make mistakes, but the whole purpose of all of that is to learn from it so that you can better yourself for tomorrow.
Keep pushing forward.
And we don't have those conversations with our children anymore. We don't instill those values anymore. The community is not raising our children. If I say something to your children as a police officer, the parents may curse at me, which it has happened over the years and continues to happen. But I'm not out here trying to hurt anyone's child. I'm only trying to offer them some advice. And if we don't all work together to make this society a better place for all of us, we're going to continue to see destruction.
Do you think that we've come to a place where we accept and we expect violence to take place?
I think we do as a society. We do. When you see young people out here with the phone recording a dead person lying in the street, that's a problem. That's a societal problem.
I know that, you know, growing up, I'm a product of the 60s. You know, 59 years old now. I remember as a young boy growing up, if someone got shot, the community would be outraged.
And afraid.
Outraged and afraid, right? Literally outraged. And now it's like the pendulum have shifted. Where's the outrage, the protest, the downright discontent for burying our babies so young? Where's the outrage behind that? Where is the, let's take to the streets, if we have to create our own group of people, that we're going to walk the streets all night long? I mean, I don't, maybe that's wishful thinking. Maybe that's just my little mindset, but
people have become accustomed to what's going on right now. And I say that, for instance, this no snitching thing. One or two individuals has made it impossible for people in general to speak out about violence. I get it that people are afraid, but there's nothing in this world that would help keep my mouth shut if I witnessed a murder. Absolutely nothing. But I do understand the fear that some people have because of where they live, because of certain individuals maybe threatening, and they know all about these individuals, and they will kill you. But if a society stood up against that, it would stop.
Oh, without question. You know, wow, I had so many thoughts run through my mind when you were talking. You just, I went in an overload. Sometimes it does that to me with so many thoughts running in my head. But you talked about people telling and people snitching. You know, the question that I always ask people, if the roles were reversed, would you want that person to tell what they knew as if it was your loved one? Of course you would. Of course you would. And so how do we get to a place to where we refuse to speak truth? How do we get to a place to where we accept? I mean, to put you on the spot, and you may not know the answer to this, but it just came to my mind when it slowed down a little bit. What's the number of homicides we've had this year? We're coming up on the end of the year.
We have 25 in the city of Winston-Salem.
Wow, that's 2 a month almost, right? Yeah, that's 2 a month. That's 1 every other week. Wow.
And I often say, we got 25 this year. It'll probably be much higher this year, 28. But we're losing 25.
That's right. This is November.
We're losing 25 to 30 men, majority black men and women, every year. And over the years, those numbers add up. Hundreds and hundreds of people are dead for senseless reasons.
So if you just said a 5, if you talked about just a, wow, 4-year period, that's 100 people.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
8 years, that's 200. Wow. So in 8 years, we lost 200 people to gun violence.
And that means we left children without fathers, children without mothers. Mothers without sons, fathers without daughters.
Wow. I never looked at it like in terms of, if we just do the math, we look at it per year, but if you start to add those up, how many men and women do we lose across this community? Yeah. Wow. So, as we get ready to wrap it up, what do you say young folk, they want money when you talk to them, they want money. You say that they want jobs and opportunities. So do we go to the folk that set these things in place and say we need to create jobs, we need to create skills, we need to do these things to help these young men and women to shift their mindset into something more productive?
I think they need exposure. I think they need to know that something else is possible. I think they need to know that they are valued and that there are opportunities out there for them. And if the opportunities is not right there in front of them, maybe they can create whatever it is they want to create.
Yeah.
There are some very, very talented people, young people.
Oh, I've met quite a few of them. Very talented, very talented.
But without,
from the trigger puller to the victim,
without often hearing that you are somebody and we care about you and we love you, they oftentimes find themselves in the positions that they're in.
You know, we were at a celebration yesterday where we were celebrating playground that was built over in one of the areas of, in the city. And as we were there and I was looking around and I was just thinking to myself, is that I can't feel that we're winning until our children are winning. I can't feel that I'm safe until our children are safe. I can't feel that we're successful until our children are successful. I can't feel that life is good to the least among us is at least having some resemblance of life, of a quality of life. And so my thing is, every day I try to figure out, how do we change that narrative? How do we as law enforcement get out into the community? And not only just law enforcement, but this is not a law enforcement issue. To me, this is a community issue. It's not a black and white issue. It's not a rich, poor. It's a life issue. It's an issue of, as a community. As a community. You know, and I say this every chance I get. My father says, show me where a man spends his time and his money, and I'll show you what he loves. And so we say, regardless of where you sit in this community, if you say you love the trade for Forsyth County, Winston-Salem, then you have an obligation to sow something productive, whether it's your time, sweat equity, your resources, your money, or something to make this place better. Show something, do something to change the narrative. Because as you said at the beginning, there are so many issues that are swelling around out there that are social issues that become criminal issues. There are social issues that drive young men and women into gangs. It drives young men and women into violence. I can't even remember gangs being prevalent when I was growing up.
Neither can I.
I remember we had a little dojo where we used to go and practice Aikido, and, you know, we called ourselves the Green Hornets or something one day. But I can't even think of gangs in my era where we was doing some of the things that are happening now. How do we push back? How do we get back to a place of slowing this down? Because from what I'm seeing, it's like the numbers are increasing. You know, when I was talking to the sheriff and he talked about 3 homicides in Davidson County in a 4-day period, I was like, whoa, you know,
it still takes the village to raise our children.
Without question.
I need my grandparent when I was raising my children. I needed my parents when I was raising my children.
Yeah.
I needed my neighbor when I was raising my children.
Oh, that's a fact. That's a fact.
I needed the teacher to call me when my children were doing wrong.
Yeah.
I needed other people to get involved. And that's the only way as a society that we're going to survive.
You know, that's interesting. You say that about a village raising the kids. I experienced that myself. I needed my parents to help me raise my kids. I needed my grandmother who helped me, God rest her soul. But then when I look at my life growing up, right, in my neighborhood, I had cats like Moochie, Pap, Third. I mean, guys that saw something in me and was like, they called me Little Dinky Doll. Yo, this is what you better do. You better not let me see you doing this, because you do, you're going to get these hands. And it was older cats in the community that regardless of what they were doing, they wouldn't let me stray. I don't see that anymore. You know, I remember sitting in Bloom Park and about to take my, you know, I was a young kid, and every now and then I felt the need to take a drink, right? And I remember sitting in Bloom Park with some Mad Dog in my hand, and Kenny Harrison walked up on me, older man who drank and did a lot of things, and slapped me, literally slapped me. Bottle in face went one way, and told me every time he saw me with a bottle in my hand, he would do something to me. Well, at 15 years old, I hadn't had a drink since I was 15 years old. And I look at my life at, it was the village that allowed me to get through some things. The village. I mean, it's cats that, you know, Mike, Guy. I mean, I could go on a list of people that in that neighborhood in East Winston, where I grew up at, that wrapped their arms around me and dared me to do any other thing than what is right. The neighbor, Miss Eldred, Mr. Luther Eldred, the Bobby Wilson, Miss Verna May, all them folk that if I did something, it would beat me back home. You know, not only
Absolutely.
would they, yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore.
It don't happen anymore. I get it. I get it. I get it. Wow. It's amazing. But I want you to know that you truly are a soldier. You truly are making a difference. I hope that what we say, what we do, make a difference in somebody's life, because it's a very serious topic. It's very serious issues that are happening in our community, the gun violence. So I'm going to give you the last word before I take us home. What would you say to somebody right now that's watching? You give us the last word, because your baby will be how old now?
He would be 30.
Wow.
31.
Yeah. Him and Jameson a year apart. Wow. So I'm going to give you the last word, Chief.
I'll just say to those moms out there who have lost children, get the help that you need. It would have been easy for me to sink in the valley, but I was determined I wouldn't do that. 2 weeks after my son was murdered, I went back to work. And I went back to work because I felt like my experience would be beneficial to someone else. I've had the opportunity to share my story with a few mothers who have lost their children. And I felt like sharing my story helped them with trust issues that they had with the police department. What I can say is that I've seen death 1,000,000 times during my career. Again, never did I imagine I would experience this in my lifetime, losing my own child.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not exempt. We're all capable of having this happen to us. It takes constant talking to our children, constantly reminding them to make good choices, constantly, no matter how old they are. If they're not living in their own home, paying all of their bills on their own, right, you have a say-so.
That's true. That's so true.
You have a say-so. And don't allow your kids to run things. So oftentimes I see 5, 6-year-olds telling parents what they're not going to do. You have to start disciplining them now, and making sure that they're on the right track. Because if they're telling you what they're not going to do at 5, what are they going to do to you when they're 25?
Wow. You know, that's interesting. You sparked a whole nother conversation in my head. Probably have to have it some other time. You guys did barbershop talk down in Raleigh, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
In Cary.
In Cary,
yes.
Yeah. Police chief was telling me about that.
Yeah.
But you said something else that took me on a whole nother path when you said get counseling, the mental health piece behind
yes.
that. I think back when, you know, I lost a loved one, lost my wife. I should have went to counseling, but I didn't. I sent my sons went. Thank God for Miss Newman, who was the counselor. I probably should have went when I sat and listened to what the conversation they were having. I realized that what I went through was what they call situational depression. The situation that you're in has caused you to be depressed. And so many times, parents, we go through, even our children who lose a sibling
yes.
to gun violence, go through that situational depression, yes. and we don't get them the help or the counseling that they need. So that's great that you said that if you lose someone, get some help, get some counseling.
And make sure the children get it.
yeah, because that's a whole nother conversation,
yes.
whole nother conversation. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming by today. I do. It meant a lot for me to invite you, because 3 years is not a long time. Don't know if I could have done this 3 years later, But I love you, my sister. I appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And as always, this is Bobby, and thank you for being with us Off the Cuffs.